meeting, so.
Yeah, so just an FYI, I don't know if you opened your email, Keith. We have 2 that will be leaving at 6:45 for
Where the
meeting.
heck are they going?
Conversation could hear the solution.
Yeah.
Maybe-
hold on.
maybe-
Just an
maybe-
There we go. I know Dean told me that
Bill, you're starting to look like Burl Ives.
I'm going for.
You're
That is just the look I'm going for.
Bill, I was going to tell you, since we've got like 3 or 4 minutes before the meeting starts. I was in Korea like a couple of years ago, and I didn't know that you had been there, but
Yeah.
Korea was a kick. It was a lot of fun. They have some crazy things in Korea.
So when you landed, did you see a big sign that said Bill Kobe was here?
Well,
That's how she knew I was there.
That's what I wondered.
people were still talking about him. Anyway, so yes. Have you been back to Korea?
Yeah, so I started my mission there in 93 to 95, which tells you exactly how old I am.
Okay.
I'm old, although not as old as some.
Yeah, I served my mission in 1980.
So yeah,
Okay.
we won't talk about that. We won't talk about that.
Okay.
Where did you serve your mission?
Me?
Yeah.
Bangkok, Thailand.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
They'll speak Thai?
Nitoy. Very
Okay.
little.
I knew that's what that meant.
Yeah, Nitnoy. Enough that I can order all my favorite foods, and that's it. Okay, 5:58. Do we have people joining us?
You have Andy.
Okay.
Where's a good place to get Thai food? Because I love it. I just wonder if it's good or where you like to go.
I really like Arroy D, right off of 12th Street down there
Yes.
at the freeway.
Over there by the freeway. Love that place.
That's really good. The one up at Winco, it depends on what I'm ordering. I love a pumpkin curry. Have you ever had pumpkin curry?
Oh yes. Oh my goodness, that's delicious.
The place next to Winco has the best pumpkin curry. I don't know if they do it all year, but I always ask them to put in extra of the pumpkin because I absolutely love the pumpkin. So good. It's a Japanese squash.
Keith, we are waiting on Jeff and Dean.
Okay.
Jim said if he makes it, he'll be late. But that's if he makes it. He's trying to help his daughter.
Which 2 are leaving?
Jeff and Dean.
Same 2 we're waiting on.
So as soon as Jeff and Dean come, we will have a quorum.
Is Ashley going to be here tonight?
Ashley's camping, Alicia is ill, and Nate is out of town.
Okay.
Let me text Dean and see where he's at.
So Jill, I'll have you do the full presentation before we open for a public hearing.
Yep, it's on my note right here to remind us to open. Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
Hello, Sarah.
Hello.
I think Ann was going to join us too.
Yep,
And is participating on YouTube.
Okay. Anybody else on YouTube?
I'm showing 3 people watching, including myself.
That's me too.
I think,
Ann would be the other one.
okay, I saw Cutler here for a minute.
He's on, he's just muted. He's one of the applicants.
Yeah, I think he's on our link.
They're muted until Keith.
I actually went down there today and walked around. He wasn't there yet. I think he was coming in at 4 p.m. But it's really fun what they're doing at the straw market.
Yeah, it looks great down there.
Yeah, isn't it though? It's a fun little cafe environment, and we need to go down and get some food.
Here's Jeff. Dean hasn't texted me back yet, so I'm hoping he gets on pretty soon.
Oh, do we have 5?
We have 4, so we could do it.
Don't we need 5?
We need 5 to have a quorum.
No, because 7, we
Just
need
4.
4.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Alternates, so we need 4, which we have 4 now.
Then let's jump.
You would be the 4th one, Keith. So,
Okay, we'll officially start the meeting then. I'd like to welcome everybody to our Zoom Planning Commission meeting. We'd ask for a volunteer for a prayer or a thought.
Happy to do that.
Thank you, Andy.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're happy this time as citizens of this wonderful community to represent them. We ask you to watch over us at this meeting, to guide us so we may make good choices, that we'll be inspired to leave this wonderful community in the best of thy hands. We ask you to watch over our servicemen, our people that work for us, and to bless them that they may be inspired. We ask you to watch over this community, bless it, that we will be able to enjoy the blessings of living here in this community. We will ask you to watch over all of the citizens and the youth of our community. And we ask you for these blessings this night in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Neff. We'll once again pass on the Pledge of Allegiance only because of the delays. And at this time, we'd also like to remind all the commissioners that there's a conflict of interest for today's agenda, if they please state so or recuse themselves. Okay, so with that, we'll move for approval of the agenda and minutes from the June 14th Planning Commission meeting. Do I hear a motion? Someone please.
I
I'll make a motion.
wasn't there. Can you still make that motion if you weren't there at the meeting, or shouldn't you have been there at the meeting?
Oh, you can make the motion. You've read the notes, right?
Actually, we can't approve the minutes, but we can make a motion for the agenda for tonight.
there's only, we have 3, it would have been Keith, Jeff, and Andy that were there. Julie was not.
Yeah.
So we have 3.
That's not enough to approve.
We
We'll
need
table
one
the
more. We will
table the
wait.
minutes and we'll approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Hey, there's been a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
I can second the agenda for tonight.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll go to item number 1, which is a discussion and decision possible text change in CP1 from N under used car lot to C. Applicant Nick Cutler and Jill, you're going to do the presentation. So go for it.
Okay, so, oh, come on. The text change is not just for that specific location. The text change is for every zone or any location that has a CP zone. That is the most important thing that I need you guys to remember.
Are these the only 4?
Right now. So you also have to keep in mind if someone were to do a rezone and apply for the CP1, that would be one of the permitted or the condition uses if it's changed in this. So the locations, as you can tell, over by Straw Market, this whole area is CP1. The corner of this lot, which is not that far from the city office building, they could possibly use this whole lot as a CP1 just because a portion of it is allowed as CP1.
Is that grandma's closet?
Yes.
Yes.
Over here, here's the Pepsi plant, so 1,000, 2,700 north and 89. This area is technically CP1, and this area is CP1. So if anything were to change, these could possibly be a used car lot,
So the storage unit is currently,
CP1.
okay.
So keep that in mind. So the request is to change from not permitted to conditional in the CP1 zone, not a location, the zone. Okay. So currently there is no conditions on file. So if hopefully you guys read the staff report that I sent out, there is some detailed conditions that we have come up with, and it's not directed at one location because again, it is linked to the zone. So if you look at it, we went through the entrances. We don't want specific entrances onto 2,700 or 600. Again, going back to where the current zones are available. And if they were off of 20 or 89, they'd have to get a UDOT permit. The parking, that is the biggest part. To figure out how to get a good amount of cars without overloading a parking lot and also adding with employees, customers and everything. What we did was I looked at a standard parking lot size, and we're referring it back to the actual parking lot code for the CP1. So that's where the mathematical equation comes in with how big of the sales floor, which the sales floor for a used car lot is the car lot plus the building. That will determine how many parking stalls they'll need for a employee or have available for employees or customers. So that part is covered.
Have you done the calculation on the property that's being discussed?
The property that Nick's tried to get a used car lot on right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the calculation based on square footage of how many stalls?
With how big everything is, he probably only get, I believe it was like 5 vehicles. And the reason why we did it this way, rather than here you can have X amount of cars, is because you might have a really big CP1 area versus a very small CP1 area. You want it to fit the size that they are wanting that zone for. So if we decide, or if you guys, not me, if you guys decide that you don't want to have the CP1 change to conditional, that's fine. These are good conditions in my opinion. So if you want to move to approve these conditions for this type of use, that's an option. So we went through the parking. That was a big thing. Curb, gutter, sidewalk has to go around the whole parking lot. It has to be paved with asphalt or concrete, so that way it's not dirt and it's going to look nice. Another concern that you guys kept coming through is landscaping. I heard you guys loud and clear. So there shall not be any less than 15%. And zero scaping will not count towards that 15%. So in other words, there's got to be landscaping of some kind, just not zero scaping. And depending on how big the lot is, depends on how many items you will have to have on there. For example, there's a list that for a 1,200 square foot lot, you would have to have 4 items. You could have 4 shrubs, 4 trees, a mixture between them. But there's a list that they would have to pick and put on there to make it conducive to an area that it sounds like you guys are wanting something nice, something not necessarily like a parking lot that isn't taken care of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just a correction. You said 1,200 square feet. It's actually 12,000.
Sorry, 12,000. Thank you for that correction.
Jill,
Yes?
I've got a quick question.
Mhm.
How many square feet are we looking at then that he has?
His lot in particular, or this is why we did it for 12, for a minimum of 4 items have to be picked.
Yeah,
A minimum of 12,000 square foot.
yeah, I'm just wondering how many square feet he has, because that way in my mind I can go, oh, that's equal to 4 trees or for this, you know?
His lot, I would say, is just a little bit over 12,000 square feet.
So
If it's a bigger lot, they're gonna have to have more of those items.
okay,
Does that make sense? That's why we did it this way, to make it work for whatever size. If it's a humongous lot and they only have to have 4, 1 on each corner, then who knows what's in the rest of it. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, that's good.
Snow removal, that's on there, so we make sure it's clean, clear, clear for those residents that are walking on sidewalks, things like that. You guys also had concerns with the types of cars to be sold. So I don't know if you were able to look through it. The signage on the cars are not going to be big. We're not going to allow balloons hanging from the cars, things like that. They have to be in working order, which we don't want flat tires, missing bumpers, major body damage, not a lot of rust at all, broken windows, things like that. They can't have those. There has to be safety restraint system like airbags. They have to be working. The vehicle has to be equipped with seat belts, working headlights, tail lights, stop lights, and turning signals. And if there's any cracks in the windshield, it can't be more than 5 inches. So we tried to make it doable, but not to the point where it's going to be, because you guys kept, you're worried about what kind of cars. You don't want something that's going to look run down or like junk. That's what I took. So this is, again, if you want to change things or whatnot, that's fine. Really quick, we'll jump down to the lights and then we'll go back up. So the lighting, all lights shall be kept on their property, no light trespassing on other properties. So it has to be kept within their lot, no matter how big or whatnot. And it has to be dark sky compliant, because that's what we're trying for anyway. So the safe use and safety. The used car lot shall be the one and only use for that parcel. Let me tell you why. Looking at a lot of places, not just one in particular, a lot of places, some things can work, some things can't. And you have to look at the worst case scenario, because if you don't, and you allow everything, you can run into issues. For example, with the whole COVID, I will admit there was not a lot of cars over there. And then once it started lifting up, people were out and about, the parking lots were slammed, packed. And if you add more businesses into a smaller area, it's not gonna necessarily work parking lot wise and traffic freely running. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So there's that. The flow of traffic shall preserve the residential atmosphere for the neighborhood and will be approved by the city. So in other words, a way to kind of get people in and around and about. Test driving. Laurie and I kept looking at different things because we don't want people racing up and down the roads trying to test drive cars. Again, we're trying to make sure worst case scenario, people are being safe, not that one person's gonna ruin it, you know. We
And we're not
try
just
to
talking this parcel, we're talking about all,
all parcels.
that's correct.
So no test driving shall occur on local roadways except for 89 and 1000. Except for you can go on Pleasant View Drive or 1000 to get to those areas. Does that make sense?
Now, you're gonna have to change that because you can't restrict someone from a legal driver test driving a car. He can go, or he or she can drive on any road that's permitted by state law. So I don't know if we could restrict that. I mean, certainly.
We can ask that they don't, but we can't necessarily pull them over and say you can't do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I wouldn't even put, if I was test driving a car, I'd want to go through all conditions. I'd want to test drive it on the freeway, on the highway, neighborhoods, stop signs, street lights. So I don't know if that's applicable.
Okay. There shall be no outside display or sell of parts or tires. So that if it's a used car lot, it's a used car lot, not selling anything else. Amplified speaker or public address systems are only used within an enclosed building. So it can't have speakers outside to call people throughout the parking lot. Does that make sense? Or is that kind of, okay. Signage, we're only allowing one sign for the location. There's the size, it's actually not that big. We won't allow any temporary signage, no balloons, banners, flags, or motion signs. So those are the conditions that we've heard that with your concerns and things like that. So I have had some comments. Parking issues. Worried about traffic depending on the locations. I've had people say that it's just not a neighborhood commercial type business for neighborhood commercial areas. And comment that I got this morning or this afternoon, there was a used car lot on the lot when they had Barker's gas there. They tried it and it didn't work. So that's honestly all I have. So I don't know if you have any questions for me or if you want to start your public hearing.
So one question I have for you on the signage, 2 foot by 3 foot, that seems awful small. Is that in a city ordinance right now? I mean.
No, but Bill and I were talking
It's a
about
standard size.
it.
2
There you
foot by 3 foot?
Yeah, that's a standard size. 24 by 36 is a standard poster or printing size. It's the size of the plats that we sign and print out.
Can it be illuminated or is it?
It can be illuminated, but the thing is, the light would have to stay on their property and it would have to be dark sky compliant.
So you just turn off at night. And then a question I have on the parking lights. Is there a parking lot light requirement per square foot? So in other words, would all the asphalt have to be lit at the night?
I didn't look at that one. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay, I was just curious.
I don't think we need a requirement that way, as long as the light, I mean, they're going to want to light it for security purposes anyway. But as long as there's not any light trespass onto adjacent properties, I think we're in good shape.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Because I wasn't there 2 weeks ago, and maybe it was discussed, though I didn't see it in the notes that I had read. When I went down there today, I noticed at the back of Straw Market that there is a preschool and tumbling that takes place out of Straw Market. Obviously, right now, that's not going on with COVID. But my concern was with parking. If we're looking at parking for Straw Market, how many stalls are required for Straw Market, and how many are already required for a preschool? Most preschools have like a drop off when they're dropping children off. So is there a drive aisle to protect those children? How are those children being dropped off safely for preschool? And the tumbling, they probably do preschool in the morning, and I'm thinking maybe tumbling in later in the day. I know that when my children were involved in those sort of things, I would usually take them and stay and watch the class. And so if you have 15, 20 children in a tumbling class and you have 20 cars parked there and you have Straw Market, I just would like to know that there is enough room for all of these cars and adding additional cars for a used car lot.
That is a really good question. Do you want me to address that, or do you, Keith, want to say anything?
Well, we can talk about it in the public hearing, but I would like to address to you, Jill, because there's been twice now that I've gone by the Straw Market between 11:30 and 1 o'clock, and it's packed.
It is.
I mean, there are cars packed all the way along, and I think I've lived here for 15 years and I've never seen the Straw Market that crowded. So kudos for the colors and the great work they've done there. That's amazing. My concern was, though, as I looked at it, now you put cars there. Now where do the patrons park? Do they park on the street? That's not allowed. Do they park on the church parking lot? That's not allowed. And are they permitted to park in the city where the pickleball courts are? That's also private property. Well, it's public property, but it's for specific.
It can't count towards their requirement.
Yeah, they can't count that towards.
So that was my concern just right off the bat. And that was just the Straw Market. That wasn't even addressing the business in the basement that I was not aware of until I seen the sign on the west side. And I thought that was interesting. And then a question to you, Jill and Bill, how did that even happen? How did that business get put in there? I mean, without coming to the Planning Commission or licensing?
That's a good question.
Okay.
When I was informed, it was right before the rezone. One of the employees that does the licensing told me about it, and I said, well, it's not necessarily supposed to be going straight through. It's not permitted. We did some research. We found out it's conditional. We did inform them. They are filling out the application. So it should be coming through Planning Commission. So again, we didn't know until the rezone about it, but it was already in the works, I guess, to get that taken care, to get going with Nick. But they are fixing it, so they are putting it on the books to go through Planning Commission.
Okay, so and I want this on the record if I can. And so I'm glad we have two city council members. I know that Pleasant View is a small bedroom community. That's why my wife and I moved here 15 years ago. We like that aspect of it, but we live in a society today where everything is very litigious, right? I mean, lawsuits are prevalent. And so I think as a city, Pleasant View City, I think we need to have some kind of enforcement that we don't allow businesses to run until they go through the proper procedure. That protects the city and the applicant or user, if you will. So somehow Bill and Jill and the members of the city council, we got to get that in the books. We can't just let these things happen and then say, oh, by the way, that opens the city up to a lawsuit. And it puts an undue stress on the business owner. So just as a point of reference, please.
We
Point well
did
taken.
notify Candace as soon as we did find out, because we want to make sure it's done right. So as soon as we find out, we usually try and jump on it. Sometimes the city doesn't find out until we drive past, but I agree, we're gonna try and look at things and see if there's ways we can be on top of that a little bit more than what we currently are.
And I understand that you can't. I mean, if somebody comes in and opens up something and nobody knows about it, it's up and running.
But you are 100% right though.
And when the city finds out about it, they need to shut it down and go through the process.
Andy has his hand raised.
Andy?
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank Jill for all the hard work on all the specifications. I really like how you spelled out all the details for the different car lots and all the details. I really like that. What I like to really point back to is right now, what we're doing tonight, and I guess this is my question, is we're looking at all of the areas within the city that this zone change could be. We're looking at not just, in the last 5 minutes, we keep coming back to this property, but we need to focus in on, we're looking at changing all 4 or 5 different properties that could be changed and anything in the future that could be changed, not just this property. And so I guess I have a 2-part question. If we change this, this is what would happen, but could we, if we don't change this, could we adopt these rules to any future car lots of the future? I mean, we just approved a car lot down on 89. I would love to have seen these approved before that got approved.
Sure.
Because I love this new format. And so if we adopted these in that new area, would that not be a good thing for the city?
Yes, it would. And honestly, we could make these conditions, and you're right, Jill has done a phenomenal job putting this together, and her presentation was awesome. And you know, I think that at the end of the day, we're all looking to make sure that Pleasant View stays a place where there is good character, and that would hold true of the applicants and the property owners and business owners, as well as the residents and people who come and work and live in Pleasant View. It's a great place to be, and we want to keep it that way. So Jill's efforts to put these reasonable restrictions on these kinds of businesses in certain areas it's right on point, and so I'm grateful for that. But to answer your question specifically about the discussion tonight, we can, if desired and desirable, do any number of different options. We can change the things that Jill has put and make them more or less restrictive. We can change the letter on the table from N to C or to P, if that's what's desired. If you want it to be a permitted use, we can adopt just the P and change the table, or the C and change the table, or we can and not the restrictions, or we can adopt just the restrictions and not change the table. So, or we can do none of the above, or we can do all of the above. So there's a lot of scenarios there that are available. Jill's job was to present the options and to start the discussion and help inform that. And if you want to go above and beyond, that's up to you guys, and obviously the applicant's here. So when we have the public hearing, he'll be able to give some comments and some response to these things and help inform the discussion from that point of view as well. So, yeah.
Thank you, Bill. So Commissioners, any questions for staff before we open up to a public hearing?
Julie has a question.
I do have a question on when Bill just mentioned that we could look at it and make it more restrictive, less restrictive. I've got a suggestion on number 4D, and it's shall include a minimum of 4 items for every 12,000 square feet. And you can choose from those 4. I would probably like to see it shall include a minimum of 1 tree or 2 trees, and then choosing the others, because otherwise you have people choosing their 4 items or their 15%, and they are all low to the ground shrubs, flowers, whatever, that are pretty minimal. I would like to see a requirement of having some trees. For one reason, on this particular piece, but let's look at all the pieces, but say this particular piece that's in a neighborhood, it has a park. And if we want it to blend into a neighborhood commercial, to me, trees are one factor that really helps it to feel more like a neighborhood. So I don't know what you all think about that, but that's just a suggestion that I had.
Keith, really quick,
Yes.
we have 10 minutes before 2 of them have to leave.
Okay.
Okay. This time then I'll entertain a motion that we open for our public hearing. Can I have that, please? Will somebody make a motion?
Motion, we open a public hearing at this time.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
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 Gotta just say any opposed, so. All right, we're now in public discussion. The applicant is here. He can come up. We have questions, comments. Bill, do you have anything from the YouTube?
Nothing yet, just that Ann Arrington is participating and watching on YouTube.
Okay. The applicant, Nick?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes. And
There's a
we
lot
can
of
see
background
okay.
noise here at the straw market. I'm closing the store, so there's some background noise. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
You've done a great job with that store, my friend. You really
Great, I
have.
appreciate that. And I want to second what everyone else has said. I don't know if it's second, but echo Jill, thanks for putting all that together. That was clearly a lot of work, and all of that makes a lot of sense. Just having the experience I've had in the car lot, car business, that's what I've seen in a lot of cities required. So that's great. I guess I've made a little list here, and just stop me or ask questions as I go, but it seemed like parking was a big concern or question. Your comment that you've been down here the last couple of days and it's been really busy in the afternoon. That is when we see our spike, is in the afternoon for sales at the straw market, and business has been good. I did take some pictures yesterday because I want to make sure that it's known that it's not just straw market. So we have a situation almost daily where the parking lot's full and there's nobody in the straw market. I took some pictures to document that, but it is people going to the park and to the pickleball. So it isn't just straw market people that are parking here. And I have absolutely no problem with it. I know the previous owner did. He fought it tooth and nail and had a big problem with it. It's really something that doesn't bother me, but it isn't just straw market people that are parking in our lot out front.
Can I ask, Nick, when you took the pictures, was the parking lot by the recreation center, was it full?
I didn't look down there. Would have been a good thing. I would guess the pickleball people probably park in that lower lot and the park people park on my lot.
Yeah, I would think so too.
So, and I know this, it's not going to vary from place to place, but my idea is really just to have the cars for sale just along the front of my lot, and the rest of that will still remain parking for the straw market, for the preschool, and for the park. Right now, you're still seeing some mounds of dirt, but when that all gets leveled flat, which is going to happen within the next week, there's going to be even more parking available than what there is right now. So we're building retaining walls and some seating for people to sit off the back of that foundation wall back there. And we're going to beautify it with some greenery and some picnic tables. So there'll be a lot more parking than what you even see now. But the idea with the used car lot will just be along the front of that lot, not along the front of the straw market, just the lot. With the preschool in the basement, part of the application process that Candace is going through, Candace Benyon, they had her draw out the flow of the drop off and pickup, where people will park. And so we've got a road that goes right to the side of the straw market and out the back of that lot where it's hard to explain without a picture. I should have drawn it and held it up, but there is a flow of drop off and pick up there. Obviously parking on the lot, and there is employee parking down behind the straw market now. So where we've done all those, go ahead.
I noticed you leveled off the area behind, south of the structure. Is that eventually going to be, is the plan for asphalt and additional parking?
It certainly could be if there was a need that arose, but right in front of the gate, there's parking there. So there's room for about 4 stalls for employees and the person that's running the preschool. But behind the gate, if it needed to be asphalt down the road, it's not something I'm gonna be able to forward right away. But the intention there is if I need to have cars dropped off there from the auction, it's a private, secure area that you can't see into. I've cleaned it up tremendously from what it was. So we did all the privacy fence. That's where those things would be dropped off, so they're not able to be seen by anyone.
Okay, so then I got another question. I don't want to be the only one speaking, but if you documented that these cars are parked there and they're not yours, they're not for straw market, how in the future are you going to prevent people from parking in the very few straw market stalls with your used cars out in front?
Well, again, I think once we finish leveling off this dirt, leveling the top, and we have a clear sectioned off place, you'll probably notice the first 4 or 5 cars are in line. And then after that, it's just kind of skiwampus. Nobody's following any type of order. So once we get the dirt knocked down and we have clear stalls, the parking there is going to open up quite a bit. And again, I have no problem if people are parking there. There's plenty of parking along the front of the straw market. I think what's along just the front of the straw market will actually suffice what's coming into the straw market. And we're just looking to have cars on the front of the lot. So in all the documentation I've done and pictures I've taken, nobody's parking along the front. It's kind of back towards the back of the lot. So that's all open and free whenever it's full right now.
Okay,
Keith, I have a question.
please,
Can I ask a question?
Sarah, please.
Jill and Bill, what is the requirement for businesses? I know that there is in our ordinances requirements for how many parking stalls you have to have according to the business that you have. What is the requirement?
According to CP1, it's dependent on how big the sales floor or, and I can grab the book if you want, just give me like 2 seconds.
So it varies. It just, I guess with the nursery school and the neighborhood, the shop, that varies. It's not according to businesses, it's according to the square footage of the business. Is that what it is?
And certain businesses, and I believe it's in different zones that it's required, because with certain types of businesses, it requires more. But with a CP1 I believe CP1 and CP3, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, it looks like you grabbed the book.
I did.
It's based on the square footage of the building.
So would that be the building as a whole or square footage of each individual business, like
or
for
the
the
sales
preschool
floor.
and for the straw market?
So
But-
each square footage of the business would
Each
require
business.
so much.
Okay, and so there is that spell it out, and I'm just curious how many stalls are required for those particular businesses.
Yeah, we would have to look at the square footage of everything.
I
You
don't,
said you already calculated about 5 or 6 is all.
I think was selling the vehicles, he would be able to have, I think, 5 or 6.
And that's on the,
so would you have to take into account all businesses together, or would just one square footage building count as full?
That would be why, with the condition that we put it as, would be the only of permitted use for that lot, because once you add multiple,
Mhm.
their availability for cars to be sold goes down dramatically, because you have to account for each business.
For how many stalls they need for each business. Okay.
So for the parking lot itself, that's why we
Mhm.
had the condition, and it was brought up with the other comments from the previous meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
If you want those specific numbers, I can read them for you. I got them here.
I'm curious if you have them.
Yeah, so for churches, schools, colleges, that kind of thing, which a preschool would come under that. It says at least one parking space for every 10 fixed seats provided in the buildings or structures. I would say for one parking space for every 10 students in the preschool. That's how I would apply that. For restaurants, which is I would consider the straw market a restaurant, although again, it's not strictly a restaurant. We understand there are other things that are for sale and general merchandise and things, but it says for restaurants or establishments that serve meals, lunches, or drinks, it says at least one space for every 200 square feet of floor space in the building, or one space for each 2 employees working on the highest employment shift, or 5 parking spaces, whichever is greater. And then finally, for any other business that's not listed in that, 1 parking space for every 2 employees working.
So could I ask Nick, on the tumbling classes, how many children have been enrolled there, or is there a history there that we can know what that entails?
Yeah, I know that Candace's projections and hopes are to have about 10 students per class. And so she'll usually do about 2 classes per day with an hour break in between. So her intentions aren't to have more than 10 at a time, because it requires additional employees per that many kids. So 10 per time.
so is it daycare and tumbling, or daycare and tumbling, are they separate or are they merged together?
Tumbling is part of the daycare. So it's kind of an active daycare.
Gotcha.
Okay, so they aren't 2 separate businesses.
They
It's
are not.
just one business.
It's a preschool daycare is really what it is. She just her thing is tumbling.
Okay.
And
Thank
then additional on just the parking for the car lot. So MVED, the motor vehicle enforcement for the state of Utah, I had them come out and look at the lot. Just so I didn't get too far ahead of myself, I wanted them to see if it would be approved once you guys approve it. They require 3 stalls. So they have to have 3 clearly marked stalls that are for, if I name it Pleasant View Motors, whatever the dealership is, they have to have 3 stalls. Not that they have to be used by the car lot, but I have to have 3 designated stalls for the dealership.
Okay.
So the 3, and then the 5 for the straw market, and 1 per 10 students for the preschool. So you're looking at 9 stalls, and we would probably have double or triple that.
And the employees, did you count in the employees?
So we have stalls around back that we've created. They're not stalled out, but we've created space back there for them to park in front of the gate, not behind the gate, for Candace and for my 1 or 2 or 3 employees, just depending on how many are working at a time. I have 6 total employees, but they're never all working at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, any other questions, please?
We have
oh.
comments from YouTube.
Okay.
And it is now 6:47, just FYI.
Did we lose? Who are we losing?
Dean and Jeff haven't, a meeting in just a few minutes, so they're gonna need to leave soon, and then we won't have a quorum.
That puts us in an awkward situation, doesn't it? So since time's up, then I guess, has everybody asked their questions? Are there other concerns? Do
Bill, do you want?
we make a motion to close the public hearing?
Well, we can leave the public hearing, or we can table the discussion on the item. There are some questions that have come in from Anne, who's watching on YouTube. I can read those in really quick, but I understand if people have to go, we want to be cognizant of that. And so let me just read these into the record, and then we can move to table the item if you want.
Oh, Jeff's got something too.
I do have a meeting, but I can be flexible. So I want to respect Nick and you know, I know he's out here and putting it, so I'm okay. So let's just,
Okay.
I'm good.
How about you,
Thank
Dean, or is he already departed? Dean's
Dean,
already checked out.
are you still there, Dean?
I have to go now.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
We still have the 4, so we're still fine as long as we keep moving.
okay, well, let's move quick then.
Okay.
Any other concerns or questions? Jeff, you had something, and who else had a comment?
Let me read, if I may, Keith. Let me read these in from the YouTube comments. Anne asks, how many parking stalls are available for the straw market and the preschool? Further, she wants to express approval of the conditions that have been outlined for the car lot. Thank you, staff, for helping navigate through that. I like Julie's idea of the tree must be one of the 4. And finally, does Nick have concerns with the size of the sign proposed? Is that consistent with other signs nearby? It's to answer the sign question, since it's the last one, no, it's not necessarily consistent with the other signs in the area, but there are different uses going on in those places than are on than is being proposed. And so a used car lot is typically something that does have a lot of advertising to try to catch people as they drive by. Our proposal is to keep it a little bit more demure. And so I'll defer to Nick to see if he has any questions or concerns about it, but that's the reason why we came up with what we did, is just a standard poster size. He says,
You want me to go now? Oh,
I'm sorry, let me just say, she says, will you please read my 3rd comment about support, please? I thought I had, so maybe I missed it, Anne, if it's not there. She would like to express her approval for the conditions that have been outlined in the car lot. Thank you, staff, for helping navigate through that. I like Julie's idea, tree must be one of the 4. I think I read that. If there was something else I missed, Anne, please let me know.
Can I just chime in just real quick before Nick?
Please.
I also appreciate what Jill's work that she's done, you know, to put it in a generic sense. Of course, the applicant, you know, has brought the situations before us, which has triggered the conversation, but I think that's always important to remove, you know, look at as a generic whole rather than site specific. Do you know what I mean? Of, you know, that the condition is brought before us by a certain applicant, but sorry, looking at it as an entire whole of what this would work in all of the different areas that we have. So I appreciate Jill's work on that to make it, you know, kind of that way rather than a site specific way, because that's really how we make policy if this is good for all of these different areas. So I appreciate that.
I do too. Thank you.
thanks, Sarah. And I appreciate it too. I think the whole process has been good, and I appreciate that. Getting to the sign, I don't have concerns about that sign being too small. My whole goal with the dealership is to be very, very low key. I'm not looking to be a typical balloon signage, go crazy with a bendy man out in front with the blow up inflatable. I think this dealership is really going to take place online. It's going to be an online used car lot. And so Really, it's just a place for the cars to sit. My only concern with the sign is if MVED approves it. So they have requirements on the size of the sign as well before they would issue the license to operate as a dealership. So I think that's a little smaller than what they require. But if it isn't, then I have no problems with the sign, to answer your question.
So how does that work, Bill, when we have city requirements and a state dealership association, they have their rules as well. Does one supersede the other?
Yeah, I would venture to say that they have a maximum size allowance rather than a minimum size allowance. And there are for sure car dealerships out there. Maybe they're not part of the association, but there are for sure car dealerships out there that have a wide variety of signage. So, you know, I'm hopeful that they're able to accommodate our restrictions. But if not, we can look at that again. Nick, if you'd get those specific requirements to us, we can look at that and make sure that we're not in conflict there.
You bet. And just the line of the work I'm in with Carfax, I visit all the dealerships in the state of Utah. They have to be meeting those MVED requirements. And I do think there is a minimum size, but I will find out for sure. There is a maximum size as well, like you're saying, but
Yeah.
they don't allow for banners and they don't allow for certain sizes.
Sure.
And they have to have a certain amount of lighting on it, but I'll get those exact requirements.
Okay, we can work with you on that. If the one other comment here from Anne that just came in, parking is a concern for me, but if ample parking is available, I'm in support of the car lot here with the conditions met. I have spoken with 8 other residents and all are in support of a car lot at Straw Market.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Am I okay to keep going or am I too long-winded?
No, keep going, please.
Okay, cool. I just wrote questions down as we went, so I make sure I understand. On the asphalt conditions, would that be required right away? Would I have some time to get the asphalt in?
Would be before we issued a permit.
Are you limiting it to only asphalt, or could it be, what's it called?
Road base.
Road base, or like a non-traction type material?
It would have to be asphalt or concrete.
Those are the only 2 options? Okay. So I calculate the square footage of this lot to be at about 14,000 square feet, being a 1/3 acre. Does that sound about right? Am I doing the math right there?
Sounds right to me.
And so if I understand your conditions, I'm allowed 1 car per 1,200 square feet. Is that how I understood that?
Yes, that would have to be after you looked at all the parking requirements.
After the parking requirements. Okay. So after
That
parking
would be part
requirements.
of the parking requirements, yes.
Okay. Did I explain the flow with the preschool drop off and everything? So I know that was kind of a concern, but there is a documented flow for how they will drop off the kids and exit, so they're not exiting into the Straw Market parking lot. There's that right of way along the back of the property.
Yes, I appreciated you explaining that. Thank you.
Okay.
And I noticed that as well, and I thought that was nice. The only thing I worried about was if somebody heads up the wrong way accidentally, instead of heading south and then turning west, somebody turns east and heads north.
I think part of Candace's waivers that she signs with the parents is a clear documented how you drop off your kid map plan. So while they could make a mistake and go the wrong way, it is explained to them when they sign their kid up.
Put an arrow on the.
And when that's asphalt, you can always put your arrow, right? You can put an arrow one way. Okay.
Would you require that to be asphalt as well, the back part of the lot, or just where the parking is?
So
It would be anything that has parking or, so that would be required.
So if I just put asphalt where the employee parking is, I wouldn't have to necessarily do it where the road is that they exit on, back behind the property, the right of way.
If that's something that you guys want to, do,
Well,
we just put it as the parking lot, not necessarily
Okay.
right of way.
Don't get me wrong, I'd love to do it. It's just like, yeah, it's going to be a lot of money. So, and then the only other, oh, sorry.
no, go Nick, please.
my only other just comment was on the preschool application. I guess I just wanted to make sure, I mean, we had been in communication with the city on getting that permit in place. I don't want it to come across as if we just started the business without talking to anybody. That was something that we had definitely been in communication with. And I think there was just some communication between Candace and the city on how that process went. And so as soon as we found out there was an issue, I called Jill and I asked her, is this something I need to shut down, or will they work with her for a little bit? And Jill was great. She said, yeah, we'll give them some time to get it taken care of as soon as I discovered that there was a hang up there.
And we do that with people, and you know, we're not jackbooted thugs that are going to come in guns blazing
Sure.
and shut down a preschool. But,
I just don't want you to think I'm trying to start something without talking.
No, my
No,
comment.
and Nick and everybody over there has been really good at responding to our requests and our needs for information. And you're seeing, Nick, that this is part of a thing that's much bigger even than just staff. There's folks that have questions and concerns all over, and we're trying to anticipate their concerns and get them answers, and hopefully try to anticipate things before they even become an issue. So
cool.
So Nick, I just want to clarify if I can. My on the record comment was more chastising the city than the applicant. So.
Right. And the city has been great to work with on it. I want to make sure that we did at least start the conversation. We probably did it wrong and maybe should have gotten some better clarification before we proceeded, or before she did. But you know, poor communication on our part too. Oh, go ahead.
So there's one stipulation in here that's going to be really hard. Now remember, we're putting this stipulation for all of the CP ones, 4 or 5 of them, and there could be future property purchased with a zone request, that each structure only have one business.
What did you say?
So each business or each structure is only allowed one business, according to these conditions that have been read.
Oh, so you would propose that I'd have to build a new structure to have the dealership. They couldn't operate out of the closing office, couldn't operate out of the office in the basement of the straw market.
Or the tumbling might not be able to operate. So you could operate the closing in the basement, because that's see, that's another problem. You've got the straw market, parking lot, and tumbling. So you have 3 businesses in one structure.
Yeah, the straw market will never use the basement. That's set up for, as you know, used to be a dance spot and office space.
Used to be a church. Yeah. So you brought in the application to apply for a conditional use, correct? And staff has put together, I think, some pretty good guidelines for a condition on this property. So I guess that's something that you're going to have to work out. This isn't personal. We have to keep saying that. This is not personal. This is very general, not specific to one, but general for the city. So we need to keep that in mind. This isn't anybody attacking. These are the conditions that will be placed on the CP1 or CP2. And so
oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. So the proposal is, or the condition would be, that I can't have other businesses operating out of the straw market. So not only is the dealership shut down, so's the tumbling.
no, so these restrictions would only apply to a used car lot. And what I would be willing to do, and just based on the requirements that are here, you actually own 2 different lots there, Nick. One is on the corner and one is where the straw market is. We could say that the lot on the corner is the used car lot, and you're just running the sales office out of the straw market area. I don't have any heartburn with that. What we're What we're trying to do though is avoid a situation where you've got 8 different businesses and a car lot all trying to use the same parking lot, right?
Right.
So the parking lot would be, or the used car lot would be on address number 883, and then the straw market would function out of 879. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is
And
it,
then the tumbling would operate where?
Also at 879. Now the requirements that are put in there, for the preschool, and I'm careful to call it a preschool, are these aren't, I guess what I'm saying is that these requirements that Jill has put together are for used car lots. They govern used car lots and not straw market and not preschool and not other businesses that could go on in the same building. It's anticipated in the code that each building does not necessarily have to only house one business, right? So if in a CP1, if you had a strip mall type situation where you had several different lease spaces, you could have several different businesses within the same structure. And the reason for putting this in as it is with just narrowly on a used car lot is, again, so that you don't have to worry about sharing parking and all of the other strictures and requirements that are associated with having a used car lot.
Bill, is it still a public hearing? The public hearing's not closed.
Correct.
So may I ask a question?
May, please.
So Jill, currently the language is in such a way that says that a used car lot may not be in another business building, sharing business space. Am I correct?
The exact verbiage, let me pull it up really quick. I've got it written down right
Says the
here.
used car lot shall be the
Follow my
only,
line of thinking. What, okay, what used car lot shall what?
shall be
Used
the
car
only
lot
use.
shall be the only permitted, only use permitted on the parcel or lot.
So then if the used car lot is in the adjacent lot, that's currently the dirt parking lot, is that right? The dirt area?
Yeah.
Then where would his sales office be? Could it then, could the sales office then be within the same building as the other 3? And then his lots over on his car lots on a different building?
That's
Or
the way I would interpret that, yes.
you interpret it, or are you going to put the language in like that? Because interpretation is only part of it. Because if it specifies, you need to be really careful.
Well, it
Of
doesn't
how-
say anything about where the location of the sales office is or isn't.
So do you want to be less or more specific? Because you've just brought up something that will help Nick, but maybe hurt the city. You know what I mean? You need to be really careful. You're making exemptions and exceptions, but maybe word it in such a way that would be beneficial to Nick and others. Or if it's beneficial to Nick, do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
Interpreting it the way you want to, that would help him out, but you need to be really careful because depending on who's in front of you, it depends on how it's interpreted then.
Bill,
So,
can you throw up the map, please, that shows the
so
CP1
just
zones?
spell it out how you want it rather than interpreting it. Does that make
You
sense?
want- Yeah. Keith, you said you wanted what?
The map that shows the CP1 zones,
Oh, all the zones or?
just the
Because
4 or 5 that's
I
already.
don't see it a problem necessarily with what you're suggesting for Nick. I just want it to be really
Well, so
not
I-
left for interpretation. Be very careful of how you do it so that it's not vague and whoever's in front of you gets to decide.
We just put in a line that says the sales office need not be located physically on the same parcel as the used car lot.
Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't the Stroud Market part of that parcel?
It would be because he would have to have a business license and it would have to match the zone.
So
Yeah.
then, Bill, what are you saying? Would we grandfather the tumbling and the Stroud Market? Because they're
No, we
already
can't.
existing?
The preschool is not existing because it hasn't been permitted or licensed yet. Although they have applied for it, so any new strictures. But again, these strictures only apply to a used car lot. It doesn't say that you can't have a straw market and a tumbling in the same building. Do you see what I mean?
I do.
Is there anything that says how many businesses can occupy the same building though, within the ordinances?
No.
But then the problem lies within how many parking and whatever else that you run into.
Car lot.
Is that
So-
right?
So one thing to think of, you know, with what Bill and Sarah both said, like I told you on, if you look, there's this big parcel right here. That whole big parcel, because a portion of it is CP1, could be used for anything that's allowed in CP1. So again, keep in mind, whatever you guys decide, this could be a big one.
So that parcel is what, 5 acres?
Yes.
It's a
And
big
if you,
hurdle.
if you allow a 5 acres, so that's 5 times divided by, what did we say, 1,800 square feet? 1 car per 1,200 square feet. So you divide by 1,200, you could get 181 cars in that lot as a used car lot.
Where is that?
They'd be okay with that though on 89.
Andy has raised his hand, FYI.
Andy, please.
So going back to it was just re-emphasized that if we're looking at the 4 different lots that are out there, I still like the fact that I like these restrictions and I would like to put them to potential other areas that are zoned for car lots. I like the idea of putting those restrictions to items that are zoned for car lots. But when we did our general plan, and when we looked at the general plan with the citizens, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, whatever, when we looked at these specific types of areas, it was not looked at as far as people wanting a used car lot in these types of areas. And so I have also, and I know Ann got some good feedback for possibly putting it there. I've actually reached out to other people, had very little people wanting car lots, and they, you know, got a lot of frowned faces when they thought of even putting it into some of these locations. Possibly maybe something down on 89, but when you start putting them down there on Pleasant View Drive, I did not get any positive feedback, but the feedback was similar to what it was on the general plan. So I don't know if we would want to table this and have the full commission, but I'm telling you, with my thoughts and the feedback I have is going to lean towards putting these beautiful restrictions on the rest of what we have with the car lot and leaving this similar to what it is with this current CP1 zoning.
And I'm leaning that way as well. And
but that's just a thought. So I don't know if we need to table it so we have the more commission and have more thoughts and feedback.
well, whatever we do, I mean, this is just a recommendation to city council. So we can make a recommendation to city council that they approve all these conditions for the CP1, or we can recommend to city council that it not be approved, or we can not approve it tonight, and then Nick could appeal to the city council. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Or you
Okay,
could
so-
table and get the full comments and concerns and thoughts of the full commission. That's an option as well.
Nick, how do you feel about that? I mean, we're not supposed to have it personal just for you, but you are the applicant and you have been waiting for 6 weeks now, so I know you hate to keep kicking the ball or kicking the can down the street.
Your question is if I want to table it or if I want to let it go to city council?
Or we can go for a vote tonight on recommendation or denial, or we can table it and then get the full commission together.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. I know a lot of the city councils reached out to me, and the mayor himself was in here on Saturday having breakfast, and he was in favor of it. And I've had other people reach out to me that are in favor of it. And I understand that there's going to be residents that aren't in favor, but I don't know that they really understand how not car dealership-ish it's going to be. It's, you know, it's pretty small scale, but I understand the stigma of a used car lot. I understand it.
I think the hard part is, Nick, is I think we can all see this working really well on your lot. And and it working well. We just need to look at the overall picture and say, is it also going to work on every other place that we are then required to allow it?
Yeah,
And I've
It's
got to
tough.
be honest, Nick, I don't feel like, I don't feel like it would work well, just from what I've seen. I know that you've got cars that are parking there that don't belong on your business, and somehow you'll have to curtail that. But as I've looked at it in my mind's eye, I'm thinking, you've got 3 businesses here, you've got a car lot proposed, and there's no room for cars to sell, right? That was my concern. And so when you put your used cars out, or your new cars, whatever it is, now you're pushing the patrons. They're gonna have to find a place to park. And if there's not a place in front of Straw Market, they're gonna go behind. And if that doesn't meet the conditions, then they're gonna go to the city parking lot, and that will be restricted because it's set for pickleball and sports, right? Or they go across the street to the church, and that's not going to be acceptable because the church is private property, and they have express written rules about parking lots being used for anything other than church activities, unless the stake president says that it can be used for a community activity like a fireworks show or something. That would be the exception, but that's not the rule, right? So my concern is what I've seen. I don't know if you could put cars there and still accommodate your patrons. That's my concern.
Yeah, and I get that completely, especially as the lot is sitting now. There's still dirt piled up as we're building the rock wall on the back, and it's tough to see how actually big the parking lot's going to be. In the beginning of all this, I did draw out my proposed how the parking is going to lay out, and I think there could actually be even more. Sorry, my app wants to update. Did I get cut out? Am I still there?
You're with us.
Zoom wanted to update the app. Sorry. So I did lay that out initially, and I'd be willing to lay that out again, maybe a little bit more professionally, just how I think the parking for Straw Market. We're not talking about a lot of parking for the daycare because she's operating such small classes. But yeah, I understand the concern. I feel like there's plenty of parking there, especially once we get all the dirt moved and final leveled. So yeah.
Okay, so just so you understand, if we approve this and city council approves this, that means you're gonna have to meet each one of these conditions.
Yeah.
Right?
It'll take me time. Yeah, you probably won't see an application for several months, but yeah, it'll take some time.
Bill?
Yeah, we've had another comment online. It was a question from Ann. Why would the small yellow parcel that is CP1 on 600 West include the whole, well, she says the whole block, but she means the whole parcel. And my response was, any of the property that is zoned a certain way applies to the property as a whole. It's why we don't allow for partial zones on properties anymore. We require the whole parcel to be zoned the same. So that's the answer to that question.
Can we change the zoning? Can we arbitrarily change the zoning? I guess
Sure.
we can't, can we?
Yeah, we can.
We would have to do a public hearing just like anything else. and post
What
it.
zoning? Like where that is down there?
Yeah.
You could, but what reason would you have to be changing it unless it's like commercial or something?
Why would we want to have a large commercial operation right there on?
But you can't split it up. That's what he's saying. That whole piece that's owned by one owner, it's all or nothing.
Right.
If they get it, you can't say, oh, well, you only get to have a used car lot in this little bit of it. The whole thing.
It's the whole thing. But in defense of the whole thing, can I mention one thing that I did notice? I've been driving around for 2 weeks now, small towns, medium-sized towns, side streets. The only used car lot that I have seen that's really attractive, that I think is, and you're going to be familiar with it, Nick, is Caps Auto Sale out in Roy.
Yeah.
It's a nice used car lot. I mean,
Yeah, they do a great job.
Well, yeah.
Good operation.
And so, Sarah, to answer your question, if you was to take that Caps car lot and put that on that piece of property, is that what we want to see for Pleasant View?
On Pleasant View Drive?
Yes.
I would have to go see Cap's car lot. I don't, for me, this discussion, in my mind, and it's not anything like what you've been saying. You keep saying you don't want it to be personal or whatever else. And as much as we don't want things to be personal, we're all friends, we're all neighbors, we want to help each other out. But I really, 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 for me, try to gauge my decisions on, is this in the best interest of the city as a whole? And going back to what Jill did, she made it, this is what a used car lot would look like in CP1. And I would forget what Nick's, you know what I mean, Nick?
Yes.
Don't even look at his piece. Talk about used car lots. Is this what you want to see and what will it look like? And then you take care of that if that's what you want to see. And then Nick will work to meet those conditions if he can, but don't make it specific to him or anyone else. Say, hey, do we want a used car lot in neighborhood commercial? If yes is the answer, great. What do you want it to look like? And then go with that. And if you don't, then don't. Either way, don't look at it with, specific property. Look at it of, is this what you want to see? And if it's a great idea, great. Go with what, meet the conditions, set it up of what would be conducive to a nice neighborhood in Pleasant View. There you go.
Okay, any other comments?
Yes, I
Okay.
do have one.
Please.
Ann Arrington asked again, not again, but she asked a question again. Can we change the full parcel on 600 West from CP1 to agricultural or something else? And I said, yep, but I don't know if you got that in the discussion, but it's possible to change it if the city council so desires. It takes a public hearing and a recommendation from the planning commission, but it's possible. She says, if that's the holdup piece, I'd consider it. So that's the comment.
The reason was that would be part of the general plan discussion, was because that was part of to have some neighborhood commercial or some commercial in that area for the future, was then that would be part of the central of the city to have some of the neighborhood commercial in that zone.
But here's the thing. So you change it to agriculture, right? And I see where you're going with this, Ann, so that you avoid the big car lot. But the next person who comes along can request to rezone back to the neighborhood commercial, and then the whole thing goes to the car lot again. So just changing it from agricultural doesn't avoid that particular parcel's problem.
Can we just bring this back to the
Yes.
applicant in the discussion? Let's not talk about what could be or might be in the future. So Nick, you spent a lot of time with this, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Would you like to see a further discussion, or would you like to see if there's a motion to vote on the conditions that are put in as outlined in the CP1? It might go up or down. I have no idea.
Sure. So if I understand correctly, so you're asking if you guys want to vote on it, yes or no on the conditions. If you vote yes, it's a recommendation to city council. If you vote no, it's a no to city council, but city council could still approve it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I guess I'm open to either option there. I don't know that a lot more discussion is going to do a lot. And it's not because I'm impatient. We talked about pretty much every scenario. Unless somebody else feels like more discussion is needed, I feel like we've talked about it a lot and we've kind of covered our concerns a few times. So I mean, I have the city's best interest in heart. I know you guys have my best interest in heart, and it's not personal. So I think if you guys feel that we vote on it now, that's great. And if it's a no, I still intend to go to the city council, but I hope it's a yes.
Okay. Well, then, any other comments, concerns, questions?
Well, do you want to close your public hearing?
That's what I asked first.
Okay.
If there's any other questions?
Yeah, nothing further on YouTube.
All right, then at this time I'll entertain a motion that we close the public hearing.
Make a motion that we close the public hearing at this time.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so at this time, commissioners, we can discuss amongst ourselves. What are your concerns, thoughts? Or do you want to just throw it up for a motion? No comments?
One thing really quick, if you don't mind, Keith, is when you decide whatever you're gonna do, do you want these conditions? If so, are they good? Do you want to change something in the condition? If you're wanting to just leave it in CP2, do you want to still use the conditions? Those conditions can be to a used car lot, regardless of which zone, or whatever you guys decide. But if you're gonna make a decision, are those conditions exactly what you want? Do you want to add? Do you want to fix something?
So for example, there was the question that Sarah brought up about having the sales office on a separate lot. If you want to allow for that kind of a thing, or, you know, if you want to say that the sales office ought to be on the same lot as the used car lot where the cars are being stored, I guess, for lack of a better term. Or we could eliminate that provision altogether if you want.
I have a question on that. If you allow the sale of the cars to be done elsewhere, I think we need to specify that it still needs to be within city limits, because the last thing we want is a used car lot that they then have a sales office in Harrisville.
And that's all the tax dollars goes over there.
That's
Good point.
correct.
That's a very good point.
And I liked everything except for the test driving of the cars.
I did mark that.
Okay, thank you. I just don't know how we can restrict that.
So if someone's going to make a motion, if they would specify what the motion is exactly, and make sure that you note that we're changing the table and that we're adding the conditions and any revisions to any conditions and all of those things, if you would please specify that, that would be helpful.
Does everybody understand that? Are there any questions in regards to what we are discussing specifically? If you look at the table, it's CP1 and CP2 or just CP1.
Mhm.
Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion that we approve or a motion that we deny the change in the text of the CP1 from an N to used car lot to condition. And if we make that change, all of the conditions that are placed before us will be entered into the zone and the ordinance. Please.
A question on that, on the landscaping that I had brought up previously. Can I make a motion that we change number 4D, that it shall include a minimum of 2 trees for every 12,000 square feet, along with grass and the others? Or can we discuss that for a moment to come up with wording for that? Jill?
Do you guys want to do 2 trees and then they can pick 2 other items? So
Should we
trees
say
would be
50%?
permanent? Or do you want to do 2 trees and then they have to pick 4 items? I would suggest 2 trees and then 2 items, because if you add too much, it's not going to look great.
Okay, I think the 2 trees. And if we add that, do we need to specify trees as in shade trees or pine trees or evergreen trees? Because when you leave something vague, a tree, that could be a Japanese maple that is 4 feet tall.
Well, the other problem with trees is you don't want to obstruct the view of patrons leaving the business. So a big, beautiful shade tree is great, but if somebody's pulling out of a parking lot and they can't see down the street because the tree's in the way, that's.
But that would be within the ordinances that we already have that dictate where trees can be placed. And so if it's
pruning
2
and
trees,
proper shaping, correct.
they can actually be at the back of the property or anywhere. And we already have ordinances that control the sight line for traffic. correct?
Correct. We do have. All right, so
So Jill, can you just quickly remind us where car lots are currently the conditions, where are they permitted?
Here, I'm sharing my screen.
Not where we're trying to allow them, but where are they permitted?
Currently are.
CP1, right?
No, that's what we're
Or
talking
just-
about.
Okay,
That's where we're talking about changing them to be permitted.
okay, hold on. Come on, computer. Let me see if I can pull up.
So right now they're permitted in what, CP2?
They're permitted in CP2, and I'm gonna see if I can find the maps.
So what we can adopt with the changes that we've suggested tonight, that the CP2 conditions are updated with the conditions that you've made to allow those changes, and that could be our recommendation. Is that not an option also?
so right now, used car lots are not permitted in CP1.
Right, but so we can say, we don't have to make a change. And so we're gonna leave it as an N, and CP2, we update and make a recommendation to the city council to update with the recommendations that Jill has made, that car lots have the updated recommendations for car lots with the recommendations for the city for used car lots for CP2.
And we want to use the verbiage of condition. Since that's what it is, it's a condition.
Because then we get what we would like to see for car lots, right?
I agree with what you're saying, Andy. I don't know if everybody else understands that.
Is there, do we get a better product when they come in?
Sorry, Andy, I'm not listening. I'm trying to pull the
Does
zone.
that make sense, Bill, or is that causing an issue?
So if I understand right, what you're saying is that we want to allow this in CP1, but we want to make sure we're getting the best product. And so
No, I'm not saying CP1. I'm saying, can I create, instead of CP2, can we create these conditions for CP2? Because right now it's allowed in CP2, but can I create conditions for CP2?
So that was my discussion at the very beginning of this conversation, was that we can allow for these conditions to be put on and not change the table. The table can change stay the same. That doesn't help Nick out because his zone is what it is. Although he could come back and ask for a zone change, but he already tried that and was kind of politely told thank you, but no thank you. And so that's what's prompting the conversation tonight is, do we want to get the used car lots to be allowed in CP1, and are there conditions that can make that such that it mitigates the impact on the neighborhood commercial areas? So here, whether or not you decide to add or change the table to allow for it in CP1, I still think it's a good idea, with some modifications that we've talked about, to add the additional conditions that Jill has put together. And that would apply to any zone that allows for a used car lot.
Okay, I like that. I'd like to, whether we do that tonight or in the future as a full group, I would like to see us move towards that because I like that. Yes, Jill.
So, to answer your question, Andy, I can't find it on the computer, but where the CP or where used car lots are available, which is CP2 and CP3, those are located on 89.
And that's
So-
permitted use.
And that's permitted and conditional. So right the southern border on 89, right in front of Willowbrook, there's all those open lots right next to 89. Those are CP2 and CP3. That's where the Zarkellis just went through. Admiral Beverage, which is the Pepsi plant, that's CP3. So yeah, those are where used car lots are currently available as a permitted / conditional use.
So we ought to put some conditions in there, so when something comes up that we have
Yes.
what we want to see if it does come up again.
I really like what Jill has put together, and I think in fine tuning a couple of things here, that it will be really beneficial for whichever areas we decide to use it on. So thank you, Jill. Did we have the wording, or did I need to make a motion about the sales office to be put to make sure that it's within Pleasant View City?
So here's my question with that. Do we want to say that the parking lot can be on its own parcel and the sales building or whatnot can be anywhere, but it has to be within Pleasant View? Is that what you're wanting? So I can specifically write it down?
I think she's saying adjacent to the parking lot, but in the city.
Yeah, what I'm saying is more what I don't want to see than what I do want to see. And what I don't want to see is a sales office outside the city and them receiving the tax revenue while the cars are residing in Pleasant View. So.
And all of the CP1 so far, there wouldn't be an issue with bordering. All of the CP1 zones are clearly marked in Pleasant View City. Correct, Bill?
Yes.
Jill, okay.
I don't know if there's any other city that uses CP1. I would have to look.
So would we have to specifically put that language in? And if we don't, would somebody be able to?
I would say if you're going to want things certain way, you need to put it in there that way, because if you don't and someone finds a loophole, they get to do it. Does that make sense?
Yep. So Joy, on your shrubs, do you want to say 50% trees, 50% other? You want to say 50% of the 15% should be trees?
I think what Jill had mentioned shall include a minimum of 2 trees for every 12,000 square feet, along with 2, didn't you say 2?
2 other items from the list below.
Which would be shrubs, ground cover plants, ornamental grass, and flowers. It will still make up the 15% that you've already determined. That's already up above on A. So it's just clarifying number D. How do the rest of you, like that?
Yes.
Okay.
There should be.
And I'm striking the test driving thing, Keith.
Thank
Just
you.
so you know.
So I'm reading this one again. There shall be provided off-street parking facilities in the ratio of not less than 3 square feet of parking.
Where are you looking?
For each 1 square foot, 18.31.060. That's,
okay, 1831.
Page 7.
Page 7. Okay. Oh, it's right here.
I don't know what that means.
So it says, there shall be provided off-street parking facilities in the ratio of not less than 3 square feet of parking for each square foot. We don't want on-street parking.
You don't want, so that needs to be taken off, correct?
That's gonna have to be, it is actually listed on the conditions. Where is it at? I know I put it on there.
But that doesn't make sense. Are you sure it doesn't say there shall not be? Because we can't put a condition requiring people to have off-street parking.
Yeah, we can.
We can,
All parking that's not on the street is off-street parking.
but we don't put a condition that they have to have off-street parking.
Yeah, we do.
We don't want on-street parking at all
Oh.
down there.
Yeah,
On
businesses
Pleasant
have
View
to
Drive,
have
600.
All of the
Off-street
parking that's out front of Walmart, all of the parking that's around the church building, all of the parking that's here at City Hall, that's all off-street parking.
Right, but what I'm saying is, we don't put a condition that they have to have off-street parking.
Not on-street, off-street, yes, not on-street.
On-street is when you can park on off-street. Because we don't want anybody to park on Pleasant View Drive or 600 or 2700 or 1000.
Okay, so then the verbiage is correct.
Yes.
Okay. I'm all right with everything else you put in, Jill. I think you did a great job.
So the only thing, just to clarify.
Okay.
You want it to specifically say the car lots can be on their own, or the car lot can be on its own parcel. The office or sales office can be on another parcel as long as it's within Pleasant View City.
So if you look at any car lot, there's a parking lot with cars on it, and there's a sales office, right?
Yep.
So what I'm saying is that the sales office has to be on the applicant's property and adjacent to the parking lot in the city of Pleasant View. Does that work, Julie?
Yes, I think that clarifies it.
Okay.
Okay, that will be corrected.
Any other changes or recommendations to the conditions? All right, then, at this time, I'll entertain a motion that we approve or deny the recommendation of leaving CP1 alone, putting restrictive conditions on CP2 for parking lots, as Jill has outlined in the text.
With the modifications we made in the meeting.
Correct. Do I hear a motion that we approve or deny? Or table?
I want to make sure that I'm clear on what we're talking about. So your motion isn't just to make the changes here, but it's in regards to Nick's application as well.
No, it has nothing to do with Nick's application.
Okay, great.
This
So
is- we're talking about CP1 and CP2.
Okay,
And what's permitted and what's conditioned.
Okay.
So it's got to be nebulous. Right? We're looking at the city. These are the conditions for used parking lot.
I will make a motion that with the changes that are being made, that we, accept? What do I say?
We recommend to city council approval or denial.
Approval of the changes in the neighborhood commercial wording, whatever.
So are you changing it to permitted? Are you changing it to conditional in CP1? Or are you wanting it to be left with the,
Oh,
I've got to be a little specific on what the motion is.
okay.
Can the chairman make a motion?
Please do.
Jill, Bill, is that appropriate?
I don't think it's inappropriate. I don't remember exactly what the bylaws say. But in this case where we have so few members, I think that it's probably okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Julie.
No, go ahead. Please do.
So then I'll make a motion that we vote to approve the conditions that are placed on CP2. We leave CP1 alone, and the modifications that we just discussed be part of that text.
Do you get that, Jill?
So in other words, you want to leave the CP1 alone,
Yes,
but you want to recommend approval with the conditions which we went through to be adopted with the CP2 because that's where it's conditioned.
used car lot, yes.
Okay.
So there is a motion. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Wait,
Say aye.
I'd like discussion.
Okay. Before we vote, let's have a discussion.
So I'd like to know why, so does the change, you're changing to conditional on your CP1, and then you're changing the conditions also to the CP2, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying we're leaving CP1 alone.
So
We're not making any changes right now for a used car lot. It's not allowed in CP1.
So it
Okay,
will remain not permitted.
So okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So not permitted, so we're leaving it as basically not allowed. So I want to make sure I'm understanding the motion on the table. So we're rejecting the motion to change CP1.
Right. So the motion on the table right now that Keith gave is to leave CP1 as a not permitted use for a used car lot. And also to recommend the conditions that were discussed and the changes that were made within the meeting for the CP2, where it is based as a conditional use zone.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let's go a roll call if we can, please.
Yes, please.
Keith is a yes. Julie?
Yes.
Andy
Jeff?
is a yes.
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Okay, so it's unanimous. Thank you. Now, to the applicant. Is he still with us?
Yes.
Then, so the recommendation, City Council, is that your application be null and void because it's CP1, but you certainly have the right to appeal to City Council.
It will go to the city council for review. We have to do a public hearing there as well, so the noticing will have to take place, but that will be discussed. And the council is the one, Nick, and you know this, but the council is the one that makes the final decision on all of this. So they will have the minutes from the discussion, they'll have the motion, they'll have everything that staff has prepared and the amended conditions and things. And we'll get you on just as soon as we possibly can in front of the city council.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Is there anything I need to do, or does that just happen automatically?
It's automatic.
I'll send you an email of the date that we will be able to, and I will keep you posted when that happens.
Yeah, as long as you're okay with the date that Jill puts forward. The only thing is that we'll work with your schedule on that. So as long as you're okay with that, we'll get you on just as soon as everybody's available.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item of business is it's all the way at the top of my packet. So let me get there. There's a lot of stuff here, Jill.
Mission communications.
Commission communications. So the only thing I really want to discuss is, and I think we brought it, I think it was brought to a head with a hammer. And I didn't really want it to be that way, but I was just looking at what we have for CP1 and make the conditions for CP2. I know that this allows the applicant, but from what I have seen with car lots on, I mean, Pleasant View Drive, let's face it, it's the only main street we have. That Pleasant View doesn't have a main street. We got Pleasant View Drive, and then it splits to be Alberta Drive, but still, I think Pleasant View Drive is the main road, right? So,
Right now, yeah.
so I was passionate, and I apologize for being so, but nobody else was making a motion, so I did.
Well, obviously it was a good motion because it was unanimous in favor, so.
Okay.
You know, the hard part is like where grandma closet is, I just don't see that property ever being able to be used as a car lot. But I realize that to make that decision, you know, you never know because if we change it, but you look at the elevation on that particular piece of ground, I don't think that would ever be used as a car lot.
No, but I could see it being changed to a R15.
Yeah, you know, so the hard part is I hated to even factor that particular piece of ground in. If you look at that piece of ground down at the Pepsi plant, I actually can see that as a used car lot.
Sure.
The other piece of ground I could see as a used car lot, and I don't think we would have a lot of citizens who would be up in arms over that. The only property in question is the grandma closet property. No, that would not be a great place to put 110 cars. However, in my wildest imagination, I can't imagine anybody parking cars on that hill and trying to sell them.
The challenge though is that we have to think of this as a broad strokes thing, and if you allow it, it is allowed. And so even though we can't envision such a circumstance, we have to take into account that someone may.
Yes, and that's why I felt that I had to vote, you know, yes. And that's why I voted yes, is because I had to look at the bigger picture. But
As did I.
but it was a really painful, actually kind of painful, because I can see Nick's 4 or 5 cars actually working in that particular location for what.
And I can't.
And you can't.
And the reason why, what if a patron parks there and goes to eat and somebody looks at his car and says, I want to test drive this one because it's next to another car?
Yeah.
How do you keep that differentiation from this is a used car lot and this is a restaurant parking?
Yeah.
Because if I park my church vehicle next to the used car lot, maybe somebody wants to buy that truck.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, and
I took it from the way Nick's doing his business, though. A lot of it is really online sales, the way that a lot of people are doing now. And you bring in a car and let somebody test drive it, and then the sale is made. But the fact is, we had to look at the overall picture. And
how can we build if a person owns a piece of property that is owned, excuse me, my voice is going, that is owned CP1, how can we change that to agriculture?
We can. It's a matter of it's a matter of going in and just looking at the general plan and for guidance, and saying that the general plan anticipates this property to be zoned X, and right now it's zoned Y. The Planning Commission makes a recommendation. The city council accepts the recommendation, and that zone gets changed. The property owner may wish that it doesn't change, but they don't have the final say in that. That's up to the city. You know, at some point in the past, the city arbitrarily zoned every parcel in the city. Before the zoning took place, there was no zoning in the city, or at least it was a county zone. And then the city incorporated and adopted back in the 60s a zoning ordinance and changed everybody's zone in the city because it was nothing and now it is something. But it has continued to change since then. So it's the guidance should come from the plan, from the general plan and from the future land use map. And if you make those decisions based on when and if the city wants to zone something different, you know, that's certainly within their rights.
Are there two property owners there or just one?
There's one, it's one big lot
One lot.
on 600 in Pleasant View Drive, Alberta.
I believe the owner is out of state, correct?
Yes, they live in Texas.
He's a pretty cool guy, by the way.
So this is kind of what we're gonna start doing on 2700. We're slowly gonna rezone all those RE20s to a commercial because that's what's the general plan shows. So we want to do that before homes get built because right now it would be permitted.
Well, Jill, when are we going to have all of these conditions and permitted use and not permitted use that we spend 100 hours going through? When is that going to be presented to city council, and when are we going to have a joint session so we can all get on the same page?
As soon as we get a minute to breathe.
You would not believe how many.
You should have lots of minutes.
Use a mask.
There you go.
One thing that you guys will want to do, and again, this is something that we're going to slowly hit with. When you guys say conditioned, you know, conditional use, we have nothing on the books. So we're going to want to go through those that you guys deem as conditional uses and figure out what kind of conditions you want and put them on the books before they come.
So we did that. Bill, we painstakingly went through that and went through, this will be allowed, this won't be allowed, this will be allowed, right?
Yeah, we want to go through each item as staff and make sure that we have it all buttoned down before it gets any further. And we'll bring it back to you guys.
Okay, all right.
Can I ask one more question real quick?
Please, Sarah.
I just had to take that phone call real quick. So I missed, so you guys, you voted to only put the wording in CP2.
Correct.
And not CP1.
Not change the table.
Did Nick say he's going to appeal it to city council?
Yes.
It's not an appeal. The term is
an application.
Yeah, the term is not an appeal. The term is, it just moves on naturally to the city council for an up or down vote. So it's not an appeal necessarily.
Always? Does it always?
Yeah.
The only way it won't go to city council is if they formally withdraw.
Okay, so what specifically is going on to city council? The wording for the new zone or what?
You'll have all the minutes.
What?
All of the conditions that were approved.
Okay.
And as discussed with the modifications as discussed and
allowing that in
CP2
neighborhood commercial.
No, not changing CP1.
Say that one more time.
We're leaving CP1 the same.
Yes.
And the motion was to adopt the modified language as discussed in the meeting tonight.
Okay, and that's coming on to city council.
Correct.
And so as far as changing CP1, that's not happening at city council.
Unless the city council makes that change.
And we have that discretion in that meeting to say, oh, and by the way, we want to apply these to CP1 as well.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other commission business. All right, Bill,
Actually,
Staff?
let's go to Jill first.
Jill?
I did send out a link to start reviewing for our next meeting, which will be on July 2nd. Don Mendenhall did email me some things for you guys to review. Again, it's to review. The city's not necessarily taking a stance on those. It's just for you to review and start getting questions or concerns. A staff report will be going out next week. It will have all the information that we can find.
Will you include the sensitive land study that was already done? And then will you make sure that if they have another engineer's report, that they bring that with them?
Anything that they give us, I will put in the staff report, and I will actually send it to you if it's a lot, so you can start looking at it and reviewing it, so we can I want to make sure you guys have everything and there's no surprises. We want to make sure we look at everything and make a good decision for the city.
I appreciate that. Personally, I do. And I have looked at that file and it brings back painful memories.
Right.
But that's okay. It's part of growth.
Yeah, thanks, Jill, for putting all of these things together for us. It's so nice to just be able to look and have it all there. Print it out, look at it.
Next couple of meetings, you guys will have rezones. We've got a few.
Really? And they're all public hearings, right?
Yep. I told you there's a lot of applications coming through.
A busy time.
Yes. And that's all I have
Nope, there's one more thing you have. It's on your desk.
on my desk.
Yeah. It's gray.
Shirts,
They're gray.
Is it a koala bear?
shirts.
She forgot about the shirts.
I'm like, what is it?
She's all excited. It's Christmas.
No, I cleaned off my desk. No, we have the shirts. Keith, yours is there, Andy's is there, Julie's is there, Jeff's is there. I think everybody's except for Alicia. And
Still coming, remember? We reordered
Oh.
Alicia's and Julie's.
so Julie, me and Alicia's aren't.
Oh,
Right?
mine is not. Okay,
Would you
Ours
share,
are fixed.
okay.
Jill?
Yes.
Will you share with everybody what my last name is? According to the shirt? No, according to the original. Go ahead.
I typed it right when I sent it, for the record.
Well, Andy's got messed up too. I don't know if Andy heard about that or not, but your
No.
last name instead of an F was a K.
Oh,
Yeah, it was.
Andy Neck.
As long as it wasn't two Fs.
Well,
Right?
mine was almost that bad, Andy. It ended with a CK.
So yes, if you want, we're here 8 to 12 tomorrow, or I'm here all week next week. Drop by, just shoot me a text or call and I'll bring it out to you, or worst comes to worst, tell me you can't pick it up and I will drive it to your house if you don't care. 'Cause
you are so sweet.
I'll try to get it tomorrow, and while I'm there, you have a notary,
Yes,
so I can take care of the conflict of interest as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, just come in before noon.
Do you
Yes.
want me to give an update on Founder's Day real quick?
Please.
Yes, please.
Yay. So, Bill sent out what did you send out? An update today. City update. That's what it was called. But you guys still can sign up for the porch parade through this weekend and register online on our city's website under the, recreation. Register for the porch parade and enter it because there will be great prizes. And the goose chase starts next week. You download the app. There's instructions on our city's website also. Download the Goose Chase app, and it's a series of games that you have to complete, that has instructions. It's challenge. and you film yourself doing it and you submit it, and you'll be entered for prizes for that too. And Friday night movie in the park, you need to register for that too under the sports site on the city's website, because if you're not registered for the movie in the park, we can only allow 50 family units according to the health department.
Right.
And family unit is whoever lives inside of your house. So if you have 5, people, whatever, they count as your unit, and we're going to paint nifty little squares as suggestions for everyone to sit. So we have our lovely social distancing, and we
What's
tried out.
What's the movie?
It is The Addams Family, the latest one. It's a cute show. And then we have food trucks. We have 7 coming, and we'll put that up on the Facebook page and website next week. And they're really good ones. And then the fireworks are going to be bigger and better than ever. It's just, literally. And we have a radio station, 92.1, for you to tune in wherever you are. I mean, these fireworks are going to be huge up in the sky. So wherever you are, it'll be great. And you'll have synchronized music, and it'll be fun.
That's great. I was going to support your porch decoration. However, I have a nest in the wreath on my front door, and I now have 5 baby birds, and I just can't.
That could win all the prizes.
What kind of birds?
I don't know what type. She's a pretty little sparrow, but
Okay.
so I still have my Easter wreath on my door because first of all, we had a baby. We had 3 eggs. They hatched and flew away. I went to take down the wreath, and another bird had come in and laid 5 eggs. So now I've got 5 babies. So.
Well, you can do back porch. It doesn't matter. If you'd like to enter, it will be great. Wear your planning commission shirts on Founders Day, and I'll come around and take your picture, or take a picture of yourself and send it in so we can put it on the Facebook page and website of all of our planning commission members participating in our modified Founders Day. So yay.
Well, thank you for all that you do, all of you, but I have to tell you, it's a lot. Planning commission is a lot more work and more of an emotional toll than what I had ever thought it would be.
I've said it before. You guys are really the ones who do all the work here. The city council gets all the glory, and they look pretty in the pictures and things, but the work is really done at the planning commission. You guys take it in the teeth. You didn't ask for this job. You got appointed, and I'm grateful for everything that you do. It's there's a reason why state code says all of these decisions have to go through the planning commission first. And it's because you guys are not elected. You guys are not beholden to a constituency. You guys make tough decisions. And yes, it's just a recommendation to the city council, but it's so important. State code literally says that the city council can't make a decision on these things until the planning commission makes a recommendation. That's the role you guys have. That's the power you guys have. And I'm glad to see that it is serious. This is an emotional thing. We're dealing with this guy's livelihood, his plans, his goals, his dreams, and it is an emotional thing. It's tough. I feel it every day. And
it really is. And I admire you guys. I really, really do, watching this. And it's hard because you live with these people, you're neighbors with these people, they're in the same church organizations and Little League and everything else. And when you make these decisions, it's hard not to feel like it's personal. But I believe that good commissioners and good council members and whatever else somehow can separate for a minute and make those decisions, but it still affects your heart and it still affects your life. And you wouldn't be normal if it didn't.
I just think
you guys are amazing.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. But we just need to remember we're at 50,000 feet. We can't get in the weeds with the applicant.
Yeah.
So we have to look at the greater whole. And that's what I did. That's what I always do. I think we all do that.
Yeah.
Try very hard not to make it personal. Because then it really hurts the heart.
Yeah, I'm just like, don't look at his eyes. Don't look at his eyes. No,
Well, I'm in the same ward with the great man,
Oh.
and I love him. I do. I love him. And he's just a wonderful man.
Yeah.
he and his wife, they're just great. And like I said, I have nothing but praise and praise and praise what they've done with Straw Market. It's just, it's an amazing, they've done a great job.
And even though I said I couldn't imagine a car lot on above grandma's closet, the fact is there are things that happen all the time that you couldn't imagine would.
That's correct.
I mean,
That's correct. Who could ever imagine COVID?
yeah,
The whole world shuts down.
who would imagine? So, yeah. Anyway.
All right, anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I have one thing, just a really
Okay.
quick update. I sent this, some of this information out to the other folks, the city council and things, but I just wanted to make sure you guys got the word as well. There is a modified schedule, as you know, for Founder's Day, so stay tuned with that. We're excited about that. But what I was going to add to that, though, was we're still under a category yellow type concern level with COVID. And the case numbers in Utah aren't looking super awesome right now. They continue to go up. The latest word was that we had 40 new cases today in Weber County, which is a huge jump.
Wow.
That's in the past 24 hours. In the last week, the cases have tripled. We have 597 current active cases in Weber County. 335 of them are active. There are 495 cases statewide today was the latest number. So the trend right now is not great, and we're going to do our activities. What's that?
Is that the highest one day?
No, I think the highest was over 500. We had a week and a half ago or so, but the trend continues to be that trend we don't like to see. And so it's just going to be super important that everybody just continue to do the things with the face masks and the social distancing, make sure everybody stays within, but we want everyone to come out and enjoy, but we don't want everyone to come out and become a statistic either. That's
How many cases are in Pleasant View?
we're still around 15. So that's, it did go up this past weekend. It went up from 11 to 15. No word on who that is or where that may have been, but it's important to, especially as leaders in the community, we want to make sure that we're setting a good example that way. So just wanted to reemphasize that. It's a serious thing. I know everyone's kind of getting burned out about hearing about it and things, but let's just use common sense and good precautions and follow the guidance. And I think we'll have a great experience.
Okay, thank you. All right. We're adjourned.
We'll see
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you all. Thanks for all that you do.
Good
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
You can't hear me, but you're awesome. Yay.
Oh, thanks. You are too.
Yay.